Hey
Hola.
guys, today we have something interesting and something new on ZugZug YouTube. And we have here a Phillip Zhang by himself, the legend of hand-painted art.
I am a senior artist at Riot. Currently, I'm working on TFT, and before that, I was on WoW, World of Warcraft, Blizzard for 5 years. So I just want to show some, I guess, highlights of stuff I did. So this is Voltura. If you remember, that's like
Incredible zone, just so amazing.
the Druid Forest. That was actually
Yeah.
my first project when I was at the WoW team. Yeah, like that's kind of like my first experience of like learning how like hand painted stuff works while in the middle of this like production craziness. Um,
And
as you can
you
see,
you started with the trees and it's very
I started
difficult
with
thing to
trees.
do.
Yeah, exactly. Like they showed me like, okay, this is the how you like make use of one tileable texture and one
Oh
alpha
yeah,
card.
I know this stuff.
And I'm like, okay, that's kind of confusing, but I guess I'll try. And then like same time, I gotta learn like tileable textures, how it
Mm-hmm,
works
mm-hmm.
for the floor, and yeah,
Yeah, a
that's
lot of technical stuff there.
a lot. And crazy story is, um, at the end of this production, we're like, oh my god, we're actually way over budget because it's a forest, and whenever you have like grass, flower
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
um, in the forest, obviously they got duplicated for like hundreds or thousands of
Mhm,
times, and
mhm.
the polygons are way over budget, and overdraw is also over budget. Overdraw meaning, whenever you have like multiple alphas,
Yeah,
kind of like layer
yeah,
on
yeah.
top of each
Layering
other,
with
they
each
have to,
other, it's going like increasing like
yeah,
double and triple time the
exactly.
draw
So
calls.
look at this. So in any direction, we have hundreds of alphas like overlaying on top of each other. So actually, we spent 3 months like fixing stuff. So
Oh my god.
I think to this stage, I think it's pretty safe for me to say that my first project was the hardest one I ever worked on,
Well,
from the
that's
beginning to the end. But
very
thankfully,
challenging start.
yeah, it's very challenging. But thankfully, like I learned a shit ton of stuff just
True.
from this one project.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I started. I guess we'll just keep going and talk about some other highlights.
Yeah, maybe something about skyboxes
Skybox.
calls us
Okay.
just mind blowing.
Thanks, dude. So for this one, like long story short, back then, like most of the team were already like moving over to Battle for Azeroth, and we had one environment artist, two level designers, and maybe like one or two prop artists to work on the last patch for Legion,
Yeah,
which is the Argus
yeah,
patch.
yeah.
So we're like, oh, we're actually making a whole planet, but we don't only have like a room full of people. How do we do this?
Crazy.
And one of the level designers actually opened a video of like an old Mario game. Like, hey, you see this
Oh,
like skybox, like, people
oh.
walking around in space. Can we do this? Like I'm like, okay. Usually we just put clouds in the sky. And by
Mhm.
the way, at that point, I only worked on one skybox, which was like a pretty standard skybox. Oh, do I even have it here? I don't. Yeah, that was the only skybox I did.
Like
So basically,
before,
we have
yeah.
like one dome and
Uh-huh.
one layer of clouds.
Mhm, mhm.
That looks like windy, kind of like seashore sky.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm like, okay, I guess in theory we don't have to only put clouds in the skybox. Like in theory, we can have like mountains and cliffs and planets,
Mhm.
anything, right? So that's where we started, and yeah, it turns out to be a pretty challenging project, but it was really
But
fun.
it's
Yeah,
looking so
we just
good.
added whatever we think in the skybox, and so that the actual play space is like
Mhm.
one small floating island, but because
Yeah.
of like the multiple like skyboxes we made, players would actually think that,
Uh-huh.
oh, we're actually in a different place, a
This one
different
also
planet.
just crazy one.
And But yeah, that's a story. So like you can see here, like this is
Uh-huh.
actual like island where players can walk around, and this is a 2.5D skirt to like bridge the gap between 3D and 2D,
Yeah.
and everything behind that is like 3D.
Yeah, I remember I've been
So
playing these zones. I've been just staring at these skyboxes and like, how the hell they made it?
nice. But yeah, like I made like multiple ones for that zone, and you can see this one is like underneath the cliff.
Hmm.
So we gotta fix the perspective. And the funny thing is, when we make this kind of sky, since we don't really have like real geometry in the sky, everything is like painted on the 2D
Hmm.
card. The perspective turned out to be like the most challenging aspect. This, we have actually just one card to show like the perspective of like you're looking straight over here, and as it goes up, the perspective becomes like you're looking up to the
Hmm.
bottom of the
Yeah.
cliff. You kind of have to like eyeball everything in the one texture sheet. That turned out to be pretty confusing. But yeah, just want to point that out.
Yeah. To make something like that, you need to be like a super professional 2D artist, like have some
Oh yeah,
experience in that.
this is all 2D, I gotta say.
Yep.
For
Yep.
3D, like it's like okay, you make a dome, you put some like onion ring like parts,
Hmm.
and that's all you said is up,
Yeah.
and everything else is about 2D. Like you need to understand perspective, values, value structure, and all that
Hmm.
stuff. I'm guilty for burning the tree. It was actually me, not
Poor
Sirwanas,
elves.
but they asked me to do this. So this is
Someone
another
had to
case.
do that.
Someone have to do it exactly. So this is actually a different case because the tray has to be, in the 3D space. Like it can be part of the skybox because in
Uh-huh.
WoW,
Uh-huh.
the skybox is a VFX that's
Yep.
attached to your
Yep.
camera. So if you mount up and fly, well, the skybox will fly with you. But if you
Hmm.
have a tree in the skybox and fly, guess what? You'll see the tree floating. So um, to pull this off, we actually had to use like a huge 2.5D card to,
Yeah.
um, yeah, to actually physically drop this tree
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
3D space and then put clouds and stuff behind it, and that's how this was made.
Cool. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I guess after that, I graduated from Blizzard and moved on to Riot.
Mhm.
Before TFT became TFT, I was actually on League,
Yeah.
and I was an environment artist on the League team. So the first thing I worked on was Rise of the Elements, which is kind of like when you kill like dragon of different elements. There's like
Mhm.
multiple changes that happen to the environment. If you kill the fire dragon, there's
Yeah.
like lavas. If you kill the rock dragon, there's rocks kind of stuff. Yeah, like when I started, I think they had like 2 or 3 weeks left before shipping the project.
Oh, that's
So it was actually a
interesting.
crunch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
right
not
away.
looking
Like,
for easy ways.
yeah, because before I left Blizzard, I was actually crunching because I had to like finish a lot of tasks on my plate before I go.
Yeah.
It was
And
actually
then
I'm
the
like, okay,
second
double
challenge
crunch
started.
or whatever. So yeah, for those, I guess it's a very different experience because first of all, nothing in League of Legends is modular, so you don't have to think about like tileable textures, how to like make modular pieces that will, be able to like rotate around and
Mhm.
looks good
Mhm.
from different angles.
Mhm.
In this case, I guess everything is just 2.5D if you
Yeah.
think about it. You just need to worry about one angle, make it good, and that's all it takes. So for those rocks, yeah, they're just one angle and plus one decal card to blend the
And you've been
scratch.
working on those rocks, yeah, that is in the middle,
Hmm.
right? I've been
Yep.
seeing so many fan arts of this. The first rock you had in your portfolio. I actually didn't know it's made by you, but I've seen just
Oh, thanks.
hundreds on fan arts. I'm pretty sure.
I guess like on that note, a quick story is I've been painting. pretty much for all my life. And when I was graduating from college, I
Yeah.
realized how hard it is to be, to become like a 2D concept artist and find a job right away. So I started to think about other options, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Ding,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she won the contest, the Blizzard Student Art Contest, and
Oh,
got the
that's
internship,
cool.
and then was hired. I'm like, well, that would be a thing. Hey Jessica, can you show me how to do the low poly modeling and stuff? That's
Yeah,
what
I heard
got
many
me
of
into
those
this.
stories, and actually, when those 2D guys going for 3Ds, they being like a GOAT level just from start, because
Yeah,
learning modeling, I think it's something like 5 or 10%.
yes.
If you compare it with learning the texturing, it's crazy.
I definitely agree with that. I think, at least for our line of work, we're not doing like crazy high poly modeling.
Yeah.
The model part is actually pretty simple, and everything goes into like understanding all the traditional like 2D knowledge, like
Mm-hmm.
value
Mm-hmm.
structure, perspective,
Yep.
composition, shape,
Yep.
flow, color. Like it's all about that.
Yep. Just a little bit of modeling, like
Yeah, just
cherry on the pipe, on the
yeah,
cake.
the
I mean.
amount of modeling exactly, like,
Yeah.
it might take you a week or 2 to understand how this kind of modeling works. It's not really that hard, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, then TFT became a thing, and I was moved to TFT and became, like, one of the first environment artists for TFT who's making, arenas and stuff. Um, Here is one example of arenas I worked on. It's Spirit Blossom. So for those arenas, I guess well, I wouldn't say challenging, but the main tricky part is we want to make it look as painterly as possible, but they're not actually 2.5D like the League stuff. There are actually two camera angles. You have the front,
Oh.
and then you
Yep.
have the back. So you can't really just
Mm-hmm.
do,
Mm-hmm.
like a decal or some kind of like 2.5D skirt to fake the illusion. You actually have to like make sure everything is 360, but at the same time make them looking like
That's
painterly and kind
interesting.
of 2D as well. So that definitely took a bit for me to wrap my head around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like once I got over that curve, it's actually pretty enjoyable, making those little stages. And I got to try like way more different themes comparing to I guess when I was at Blizzard, like I'll be working on a forest for 6 months and then move to a desert for another 6 months.
Yeah.
And for TFT arenas, it's like, okay, you have 2 weeks for this, Spirit Blossom stuff, and then another 2 weeks for like a sci-fi space theme. And
That's
yeah, it's pretty exciting to
actually
like try
pretty
different things.
tough
Yeah.
deadlines, I would say.
Uh, I mean, sorry, I guess 2 weeks is a bit of exaggeration. I'll say like 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, it really depends because
Yeah, and
it's
it
hard
depends on
to
the team also, so it's not only you. Yeah.
yeah, like because we have like an interesting structure. Like whenever we make a arena like this, we'll
Mm-hmm.
then make a couple variants. Um, but yeah, we do have like people who do the concept, and
Yeah.
then we'll jump in and do the 3D and texture and move on to another thing. So things are moving pretty fast, but at the same time, like we're only worrying about the 3D and texture painting part. We don't have to worry about the concept. We don't have to worry about
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
VFX. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
yeah, we can say like yeah, it's 3 weeks,
Yeah. With
something
a
like
such
that.
strong team, that's doable.
Yeah, it's easy because we don't have to like iterate because that's usually what takes the longest. In this case, like things are already approved. We have a 2D image by Igor, by the way. Do I have him here? Uh, by the way, this is my friend Igor. He does like crazy paintings. If you look at some of his other stuff, it's like holy shit,
Yeah,
crazy.
this guy.
You know him, right? Yeah.
Actually, not. I thought about other Igor.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
share with you later on. But
Yeah, I just want to
those
show
guys
like
are both amazing and crazy
yeah.
with those. to
I
the
mean, look at
art.
this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it does like
yeah.
really crazy 2D stuff.
The level of details
I learned
just
a lot from
yeah.
Igor. Anyway, yeah. Moving forward, yeah, I guess like I'm just making arenas,
Uh,
all the way till 2022, and then I started to support other stuff, which
mhm.
I can't really post.
Yeah, we are
But
not going to talk about it. It's NDA stuff, so
yeah, it's
sorry
NDA.
guys, not today, maybe
Yeah,
a little bit
it's
later,
yeah, it's
maybe
just
after November or something, you
yeah.
know.
Well, we'll talk about it. Um,
So, and I have some questions to talk about, like,
okay, let's
yeah,
do it.
how do you get into game art? Like, why you
How do
choose
I
it?
get into
The
game art?
art, not the programming,
Okay, I've
but
been
the
drawing and
art.
painting like literally since I was a kid, so there is no like getting into it. I just
Mhm.
naturally like it.
Oh, that's
As for how do I get
cool.
into game art, it's a funny story. So I was applying for Laguna College of Art and Design, and at that table, they asked me, "Okay, so what major do you want?" I said, animation." And the guy just looked at me and literally said, "Hey, don't do 2D animation. There is no future. Do game art." And I said, "Okay, game art then."
That's
How
incredible
I
story.
became a game art student.
This guy knew
Uh,
something.
yeah, so that's 2010, um, which is the time when like Disney stopped their entire like 2D animation production and
Hmm,
everything.
hmm.
Everything's moving to 3D. So
Yep,
I guess
yep.
yeah, like 2D animation was kind of not in a a good
Yeah, probably
shape right
very
back
tricky
then. Yeah,
thing, and
yeah,
maybe some
and
platformer games or something like that.
yeah, and that's also kind of the time when the 3D art, especially like 3D game art, was booming.
Mm,
And all the
hmm.
games were being made. So yeah, I guess that's how I
So,
got into it. Yeah.
oh yeah, this scene. I've been watching at it, staring at every pixel. I just
Oh no,
absolutely love your art, man. It's incredible.
thank you. But yeah, like I later on, like I did start to like teach myself about 3D characters, so that just I can have like a whole theme is everything. Um, Still like my focus is environment, and I'll always be focused on environment, but I want to know the basics.
Hmm.
Yeah.
While we're talking about environments, I have
Yep.
some questions that actually we didn't had planned, but I'm very curious by myself. Why you choose it to do environments and not the characters, while you can do also like the characters super amazingly.
Um, Again, like I think if you're a student, looking for a job, I think the best way to go about it would be choosing the easiest way to enter the industry. And that's what I did. So
Environments.
2D is hard, and 2D character being the hardest. So cross that off. And I was thinking about doing 2D environment, but that's still pretty hard. And for each game, there's, a handful of characters, but almost infinite amount of environment.
Yep,
So
yep,
in 3D production, I think 3D environment would be the most needed thing.
yep,
However,
absolutely.
not many people want to do it.
Yep,
So I'm like,
yep.
okay, then 3D environment it is.
And if you
'Cause,
like check the open positions, and there will be like 80% of needs for environment
exactly,
artist, and no one
and
wants
that's
the proof artist.
yeah,
And we have
exactly.
like 9 of 10 guys doing the proofs. I want to do the
Mhm.
proofs.
So I guess that's something I want to share with everyone is,
Mhm.
hey, you don't have to be like focusing on say you just want to do 2D character for the rest of your life. You don't have to focus on that, and stay home for like multiple years before you got into the industry. That's not a good way to go about it. Like find the easiest way to enter the industry, and then you got to do everything, um, whatever you desire. Like
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
my case, I am doing a lot of 2D concept. Like I became a 2D concept artist at Riot. I mean, without even ask about it, it's just like one point they're like, "Hey, can you help us with 2D concept?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll try." And I did some like simple props, and after that, I start to like doing concept for arenas and
Mm-hmm.
carousels, and I became a 2D concept artist almost. Um, it's super easy. Um, you don't have to like go through that long journey of training and stuff just to like find a job. Like just get in first. That's my
Yep, yep,
advice.
and then you can try
Yeah.
like different
I
areas.
what I
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool. The next question. What was your first paid job or freelance as 3D artist?
As a 3D artist,
Yep.
uh, let me think. Well, funny enough, it was actually the internship I had at Blizzard.
That's incredible.
Well, I
Wow.
mean, before that, I did have 2 other internships. One in like a small startup studio in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm,
another one
mm-hmm.
in Disney. Um,
Wow.
but both of them were about, I guess, mostly 2D art. Like the first time I
Mm-hmm,
got to touch
mm-hmm.
a 3D program and get paid was actually Blizzard.
Ooh,
And yeah, this is like my internship portfolio
wow.
exactly 10 years ago.
Wow.
So I was making barbecue cliff hoofs, the big animal from
Wow. So if
Nagrand.
someone asks what was your like first job, just wizard, That's
Yeah, like
cool.
and those props, and I made a big
Wow.
dome for what's it called, a shot press. Um, but yeah, that was actually my first 3D
That's
job.
really wow.
It, yeah, it's I guess like yeah, it was scary because when I first started, simply the fact that I have to open a 3D program and make art was intimidating just
Mm-hmm.
because I went through art school, but I spent most of my time painting. So like my 3D knowledge was, mostly like self-taught, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
take like many
Mm-hmm.
3D
Yeah,
classes.
industry
So
is very different from what you get at
yeah,
schools.
yeah, and sitting among people like because in my room there's like Ashley Warner, there's Jordan Powers, there's
Oh,
Eric Braddock. Those people are all like sitting next to me, like making amazing stuff.
yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. Like
but
the
but
imposter syndrome was really there.
but
I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know if I
what
can
an
do this. Yeah, I'll
experience you
try.
get there.
Yeah, but I did learn a lot from that internship. And people around me were super nice, and they helped me a
Mm-hmm.
lot,
Mm-hmm.
both in
Cool.
art and yeah, like how to be a game dev.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
Yeah.
amazing story. All right, the next one. Maybe tell us a little bit about your pipeline. How do you enjoy to work? How do you start working on
Sure.
something? Like, is it 2D or maybe you're like brainstorming on some, looking for ideas or something?
Mhm. I guess like yeah, I have this demo I posted for a class I teach in Alcad, the school I graduated. Um, it can be a good example of like my entire process.
Mhm.
Um, so starting with sketches, and actually I let the class choose. They choose this one. So I started to like develop this sketch into a painting. Um, the first thing would be your sketch can be pretty loose, whatever. Like just do whatever things you like. But once you are ready to move into the next stage,
Mhm.
definitely check your shape language. In this case, this part is big, this is small, and this is like it's not mid. It's almost the same size as the top part, which kind of creates like a half and half situation,
Yeah.
meaning this area and here will be fighting. So that's the first thing we have to fix. It's pretty basic, but we have to be mindful about it. So the way we fixed it was merging the shell and the ground into like one large shape. So it's a three, and then we have this
That's
tiny part that's
interesting.
one and
Yeah.
two. So you have a better rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, just do the basic stuff like lasso select all the different layers, give them a different color, um, and add some basic values and colors,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
start
And
painting. And usually, I do want to mention, usually like for 3D stuff, like a 2D concept like this is enough. 3D can start, and the concept artist can move on to the next task. But since this was like a demo at school, I did spend more time and try to like render more just to show the entire process because we don't have a producer behind our
mm-hmm.
ass.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I then got rid of the lines and started to paint a bit more, and then in rendering, I mean, sorry, this is a little off topic, but I guess we'll mention about it anyway. Um, in rendering, we want to think about the depths because nothing we paint is flat, right? Like we're giving our viewers an illusion of 3D space using the 2D canvas. So something have to come forward and other stuff have to be pushed back. And we
Mm-hmm.
do that
Mm-hmm.
through dark values and light values. And the green areas we highlighted are areas where I think should come forward, and the red parts are
Oh,
areas that should go
that's
back.
very interesting.
So from here to here, you can see like now it has a stronger sense of like
Mm-hmm.
3D
Mm-hmm.
volume because we push some stuff back and pull some stuff forward. And then like in rendering, obviously we don't want to render everything. Like I'm sure your art teacher said the same thing at some point. Um, Resting space is super important because if everything is detailed, then nothing is detailed. It's just gonna be chaotic noise. You want to have a good rhythm of like focal point versus
Mm-hmm.
resting
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever we have a circle, it's a focal point, and
Yep.
whenever there's a
Yep.
R, there's a resting space. And I could think about resting space as like a support character, like a Yumi in League. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do a lot of damage by himself, but it's gonna align the power to the carry and make the carry much scarier.
That's a nice
And
example.
that's exactly what resting space is doing to your focal points. And imagine a team of 5 carries, you're doomed to lose because no one can really get farmed properly, right? And a successful team usually have 1 or 2 carries and 1 or 2 supports and one
Yep.
tank.
Yep.
And that's because not everything needs to be super important. Not everyone should be a rock star. Like there has to be a hierarchy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's the final result, I guess. Or here, yeah. So from here, we then go to 3D. I guess I'll skip the part of like 3D modeling because I don't think anyone is struggling with that. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention about reference. That before you start anything, definitely go look for reference. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once we start 3D, well, the first thing is to model everything we have in the concept, and we are starting on the painting process. So in the painting process, I think essentially they are about the same as you know painting in a 2D canvas. You're just painting in a 3D model instead. But there are some stuff to think about. For example, I think this part is something that often get overlooked. Um, as 3D artists, we are making a 3D model that rotates around 360, right? And because of that, we can't just make a model that looks good from the front view and feels really weird from the back view, all the side view. That's not ideal. Um, I think a better way to go about it would be like treating your models almost like sculptures. If you look at like either traditional or modern sculpture, like one thing about them is like you can just walk around the
Mm-hmm.
sculpture and
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the beauty from any angle. And that's what we have to try to achieve for our models. Like always turn your model into black and white like this and
Yeah.
rotate around. Check the rhythm, check the straight against curve as if it's a character, and yeah, that's important. And as for topology, since we're not getting into like production, I guess topology can be whatever. Just don't use too many because it's gonna give you a hard time when you want to paint on top. Um, but yeah, like once you work for a studio, like there will be very specific rules
Yep.
about like
Yep.
how
Absolutely.
many polygons are you allowed for a model like this, or
Yep.
how many layers of overdraw, or are you supposed to be using like
Mm-hmm.
opaque textures only? Like there's gonna be
Yeah.
rules for that.
Yeah. And for fan
But
arts, you can do with whatever you want. Just stay
exactly.
reasonable with the police.
Yeah. Yeah, for a portfolio piece, just have fun. Another thing about this would be like modular texture versus unique texture. The TLDR is modular textures are very efficient, meaning you can create one texture sheet for the trunk and one texture sheet for the
Mm-hmm.
leaves and flowers, for example,
Yeah.
and build a forest.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so if you don't want to make like an open world game like WoW or Genshin Impact, then yeah, you have to use modular texture. However, modular textures aren't really that efficient in terms of like giving you really nice like visual interest and flow and rhythm and that kind of stuff. So for games like League of Legends or TFT, the reason why they choose unique texture versus modular is because they well, for one, they're not open world. There's only a small stage, and for two, because everything's unique, you can actually render the shit out of them and make
Yep.
them really nice and
Yep.
shine.
With the unique and amazing lightning and yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like imagine if this is using like a modular texture. It would be impossible for me to get this like dark to light effect
Yep.
on the base
Yep.
because the base will be sharing one texture. That's just one simple example.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I guess in my personal stuff, like I use unique texture only so that I don't have to deal with like modular reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more like a production thing.
Yep. It looks really amazing.
Um,
And the silhouette,
thank you.
it's super difficult to make it work from like all the sides. It's incredible. One
Yeah.
question I have: while you have like such a detailed concept art, do you use something like image projection or your 3D model like to easier get the colors and
Oh
something
yeah,
else?
100%.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Before I started on this one, I literally took my concept and
hmm
did the 3D projection thing in 3D code
hmm
to get all the colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely. And for TFT, whenever we get a concept from Igor, like like this for example,
It goes
let me show
straight
you.
to 3D
Let me show
models. Yeah.
Yeah, right. We saw this concept, like okay, nice concept, and we basically take this concept into 3D as a plane and start
hmm
to cut things out.
Oh, that's
Like
cool.
anything that's flat, like those like
hmm
benches or the
hmm
center part, are just cut straight from the concept, and we only
Yeah.
model what we
And
have to
then you
model,
just
like
polish
lines and stuff.
everything.
Yeah, exactly. We work smart. We don't want to,
hmm
waste time like reinvent the wheels and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. And also it helps like to get everything at its places correctly.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. I already forgot what was the question we've been talking, but this is just super exciting. um, another one question about something of from workflow. Like many artists painting differently. How
Mhm.
do you prefer to start with the colors or grayscale? And maybe.
I guess have tried different things over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely seen a lot of people who like does like a nice like AO base before jumping to color,
Mm-hmm.
and That's what I tried at one point. And I think for me, since I don't know, like I think I get more excited when working with color. So I like to
Same
jump into
thing.
color as early as possible.
Hmm.
As looking at a grayscale, like sometimes I just struggle to see what I'm doing. I don't know if that makes sense.
And it's actually
um,
a little bit boring.
yeah, it's boring, and also like I can't see the vision. I can't
Hmm.
see. Oh, this
Hmm.
is where I'm taking this piece to.
Hmm.
Yeah, but when I see color, even if it's like a very rough sketch, I see what it will look like in the end,
Hmm. Yeah.
or what it could look like in the end.
Hmm.
So I jump into color ASAP. So if you look at some of those, like those are like super quick sketches. It's basically line and some like flat values. I I will add color before I even add those like shadows. So I wish I have a before and
Yeah.
after, but I guess
I
I don't.
actually do
Um,
the similar. I go for AO and Shadow Pass just later on.
yeah, but yeah, I guess just like a simple breakdown would be I'll do the line work. Once it's approved and everything. I'll give them like a flat color to make sure like they have the correct material and everything.
Hmm.
And then I'll do like a very simple light value and dark value pass and add some like additional color accents on top and done. Like if it's for production, that's how I do. I mean, I can get rid of the lines and paint more, but in production, that's if that's not necessary and we have other stuff to worry
Yep.
about, then
Yep.
yeah.
Many people's been asking about Substance Painter, VC 3D Code, or which software I should use. And I was curious, do you ever use the Substance Painter in your arts?
I tried it multiple times, and
Yeah,
every time when I try to paint in Substance Painter, I want to bang my head on the wall. It's
similar for
it's
me.
very difficult to use. Like the brush just doesn't behave the way I want. I mean, I don't think 3D Code brush is perfect. Like I still
Hmm.
prefer,
Hmm.
either Photoshop
Yeah.
or um, like any like 2D program has like the best brush
Yeah.
system. But for 3D stuff, I think 3D Code got it pretty close. Like the way when you move your hand as a painter, you don't just want like one solid
Hmm.
color, right? You want
Hmm.
to have like line weight, like thick to thin. You want to have like little bit of like blur on the edge. Like
Yep.
all those
Yep.
stuff are not really captured in Substance. And every time I paint in Substance, I'm just like, oh my god, what is this shit?
Yeah,
I mean, Substance is very powerful doing other things, but not for painting.
yeah, for something stylized, PBR just a go-to level software. But for
Yeah.
hand painted, it's very difficult to get it right and do the final
Yeah.
polishing because you kind of can use some smart materials to get some base for your models, but it will be very different style from Lego or World of Warcraft. You will need to do a lot of overpaints and polishing because all the baked highlights and shadows, it's not something that use it in these games. It could be your like some base for
Exactly.
for texturing, but
Hmm.
not even close to final.
Yeah. The way I think about it is whenever we use a 3D program like Substance to generate a texture, it's based on calculation, right? Like it's based on like, okay, there's a crevices. Let me add some AO. This
Mm-hmm,
material
mm-hmm,
is metal, so let's get some highlight here. It's all based on calculation. So,
mm-hmm.
um, and that is not what we do in handmade hand paint assets
Yep,
because when
yep,
we do stuff, we don't really care too much about like how it works in the physical world. Like those highlights, uh, if you actually model this and put it under the sun, it will
yep.
probably not behave like this. But why do we choose it? Those spots to add highlights. Um, well, it's simply because we want those areas to have a little bit of visual focus as
Mm-hmm.
purely
Mm-hmm.
artistic taste versus correctness, you know,
Yep.
in the real world
But
like lighting
yep,
system.
that's why
Um,
it's called stylize it.
exactly. So I think the very idea of like generating a stylized texture goes against why we make stylized hand painted stuff in the first place. It's like
Yep.
we don't want to generate a texture. We want to have the human taste of
Yep. Yep.
you know
And you can do
yeah.
better than the real world.
Yeah, exactly. We want to express ourselves, and just like doing paintings versus taking a photo. Like, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
The most challenging thing you have been working on League of Legends.
I would say it was the Nexus Blitz project. This one, like looking back, there are so many things I wish to change. Um, but yeah, I think some of the challenges are how do we use tieable textures on this like top-down camera angle
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
still makes them feel organic? And the answer is I don't know. Like it's hard. Like we did some like Warcraft style like tile
Mm-hmm.
textures and use them like for the floor and stuff. Um, well, if you ask me, I think this is nowhere near the
Yeah.
artistic, expression that
It's
we get
doesn't look
from
like League of
SR.
Legends.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it. We want this to be, made like quick. It's just a game mode that's gonna be there for
Mm-hmm.
a couple months, so who cares? Um, but I think it, in a philosophical way, like I do struggle a lot with kind of balancing like modular stuff with just like very handcraft style that League has. Even for like those leaves and those trees, they look like cutouts, and that is because, well, like we're not really allowed to add dark to light or like color variants, um, dark light gradients or like color
Mm-hmm.
variants in the texture because those textures will be used in a modular way. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, like if you just rely on the engine lighting, this is what they look like. It's pretty,
Yeah, it
you
seems
know.
like popping out too much here.
Yeah, and yeah. So I guess this would be the most challenging task I worked on at League. And the reason behind that was, I guess League, well, at least back then, was not ready for like a modular system. This is actually one of our first tests. I think
Mm-hmm.
in the recent projects, the Animal Squad one, for example, like they did better. Um, Also, they stayed away from organic stuff. That's already making their life easier. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that it's not that easy to use a modular system to make convincing environment. The way WoW put it off is because the WoW engine has been accommodating this workflow for like decades. Like when you paint, say like tileable textures on the floor, the WoW engine will support like a very very nice height map, meaning
Mm-hmm.
like if
Mm-hmm.
if I press my paint like harder or lighter, like I can actually have the dirt goes on top of those rocks, which is not something we can do in the League engine. And also, like the WoW engine,
Yeah.
supports
Yeah.
multiple layers of
It's been
alpha
made
much
for
better.
that.
Yeah, it won't give you this like weird blown out look.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I don't want to go to like technical details, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Well,
in a nutshell, like the most challenging project I worked on for
I hope
League.
it was amazing experience still.
It's fun. Yeah,
Cool.
you work and you learn.
All right, let's jump to the next one. How you get inspiration to keep making so amazing art? Like maybe video games or some chewing on the nature. I don't know.
I mean, to me, I guess I wake up every day and excited to like sit by this desk and start painting. Um, to a point that it's not really about oh, I have to go to work and this is a job. It's more about like this is a way of life I choose, and I'm probably gonna be keep doing it till the day I can't. I mean,
You no
as for
need to
inspiration,
rest. It's already inspiration to work. Like,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's not a work.
yeah, like if you think about it, if it's work, if it's something you don't like to do in the first place, and you have to like force yourself to get up and do it, um, well, first of all, you're suffering, you're miserable, and also
Yeah.
like you probably wouldn't be able to push that thing too far because you hate it. Like for me, for example, like I hate math. So if I decide to be, I don't know, like if I decide to work in the stock market, then I'll have to force myself to learn things that I don't like every day.
This will
And
be a
my life,
full-time job.
yeah, my
Real
life will be
work.
miserable, and I
True.
probably won't be very good at it.
Yeah, you'll be
So
waiting for Friday and
yeah,
hopefully to get
exactly,
some weekends.
exactly.
I
So for me, it's
see.
like, yeah, I guess like yeah, I choose the thing that I like to do
Yep. Yep.
since I was little. So yeah, to me at this point it's just like naturally I do it because that's what I do, that's what I am. That defines me as a person. And as for inspiration, I, watch movies, play games, go out. Yeah, just and
Yep.
I think for work related stuff, like most of the time, like I don't really get to decide what I'll be working on. Like there's gonna be a theme, there's gonna be a project, so it's more about execution than inspiration. I'll just be like, okay, so for this set, we'll do magic school, and okay, I'm gonna go look some reference for that, like Harry Potter or I don't know, like anything that's kind of like magic school themed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very strong words about the work and stuff. Yeah, like you're spending half your life on the job, so make it fun. Not
I
like.
think it's better this way, and that goes to all different type of jobs. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you find someone who's good at something, it probably implies that they're into those things before they're good at it. Like because they like it, they naturally want to spend more time on it, and because they spend more time on it, then of course they get better. That's
Yep.
the logic, I think.
Yep.
And yeah, you don't want to force yourself to do something you don't like. Yeah,
True.
don't
True.
torture yourself. Life is too short for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Agree absolutely. All right. And next, should the 3D artist be able to make their own unique designs? Like not only the concept
Um,
art guys, but also the 3D artist.
I think that's a very, very good skill to have because um, we call ourselves 3D artists, but at the end of the day, if you're doing like
Yeah.
hand painted art, you aren't really doing to like the high poly, PBRs, 3D. You are still painting,
Yep.
and you're as long as you're painting, like all the 2D knowledge about value, color, composition, shapes are s- super super important. So I would encourage everyone who does hand painted art to at least try to learn 2D concept, because once you know you learn the basic of it, you will be able to paint better. Like
Yep. That's
2D
true.
concept is all about shapes, combinations of flow and gesture and energy. And once you get that, you'll be able to use your brush strokes in your 3D model in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
They're connected directly. I didn't really know how to do, say, like 2D character. At least that's not something I was, focusing on at school, and I never got to work on those at work. So I actually trained myself in my own time for that. Like during COVID, during the lockdown, like I've been doing like a ton of just anatomy studies and stuff. Like I
Practice,
forced myself
practice, and practice.
to, yeah, it's like, okay, I don't know how to do it. well, I guess there must be a way for me to learn. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna start with anatomy and I'll try.
Wow.
So I did pages of those, like
Wow.
crazy amount. And
That,
then
that's how it made.
yeah, the next time I started to do a 2D character, I'm like, oh shit, I can draw it now. It's not that hard. So, you know, you just
Amazing.
have to like put in the work. That's all.
Yep.
So yeah, I started with like basic anatomy, and then I got into stuff that's a little more complex. Like I'll be looking at a photo and start to like doing like a minute conversion,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then from there I'll start to do more complex shapes, try to push the style a little bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's how you learn 2D character. You have to understand perspective, gesture, and perspective. Those are the three things that are most important.
Wow, those already looking so
Again, it's like
professional.
it's I think that's like, if you want something in your life and you're sure about that exact thing you want, then it's simple. Just, put in the work and you'll get it.
That's true.
As long as you're not, wishing for too many things, you'll get it. Just find a target.
Wow, you did so many practice here. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
I did a ton of this.
And the most incredible thing is like your motivation and like power to
Well,
make it.
well,
It's not
yeah,
easy to start learning and learning something that you never done before. It's very
I guess.
challenging.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like, okay, I'm doing it, and that was like, the quarantine period. So like in meetings and stuff, I'll just
Yeah.
start a page and start to draw like one or two of those every day. And since I have so many
Wow.
meetings, over time, I just got a ton.
Cool.
Don't tell my boss about it. Like, have you heard about? Well, I'm sure you did. The 10,000 hours rule. Like, if you want to be good at something, you have to at least put in 10,000 hours.
Yep. And it's about, I
And
think, 8 years or something.
yeah,
So,
that's that's how it is.
yeah. How do you see the future of hand painted 3D art? Do you think it
Well,
survive?
like if you go to any gaming
Mm-hmm.
streaming platform, you'll see that the most popular games are mostly stylized. We're talking about like World of Warcraft, League of Legends,
Yep.
Valorant,
Yep.
Overwatch,
Yep.
TFT, Hearthstone. Yeah, like
3D.
most of the popular games are made in that
Yeah.
style because naturally, as humans, um, when we look at like realistic gaming graphic, we'll be like, "Oh, that's awesome," but then we get bored because we play a game,
True.
we
True.
enjoy the fantasy, and I think there's something about, handmade art that connects to players better than realistic graphic. And because of that, I think our, line of work, like just hand painted, craft, will never go away.
Yep.
And
Yep. And
because,
it's also never gets old, like, with the
yeah,
technical tools.
exactly. If you think about some of the older, PBR or realistic games, like maybe like Skyrim, for example. Like
Yeah.
when I was at
Yeah.
school, that game was huge. Everyone was talking about it. It was like the most,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
the highest quality, the most well-made game ever. And if you look at it now, today, it looks like, well, again, I don't want
Well,
to say
I
shit on the
still
internet,
like
but
it.
it looks very dated. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way, right? And however, if you look at, I don't know, like Mists of Pandaria, the WoW expansion that came out the same year as Skyrim, it still looks amazing.
Yep.
Like you still
Yep.
appreciate the hand painted quality of all the textures because those things are timeless.
Yep.
Like, it's gonna be here today, it's gonna be here another 300 years.
Very interesting one. If you could send a message to young you when you just started your art part, what it would be?
Learn your fundamentals, learn to paint, learn to draw and learn to paint. And because hey, look at this. Like the 3D part is so easy. Like who doesn't know how to do it, right?
Mm,
I mean, you can pretty much teach anyone how to model like low poly models for like,
yeah.
our standard within a month.
Yep, yep,
But
yep.
the painting part will take years to understand.
Yeah.
And yeah, better
Yeah,
get
I would
onto it
say yeah,
now.
3D modeling is like 1 month. UV maps,
Yeah.
it's even like 1 week. And
Yeah,
the
exactly.
texturing and the colors and everything in design and
Yeah.
shapes, it takes years. Years of
Oh yeah.
experience. Jinx or V.
Oh. Well, okay. In game, I definitely prefer Jinx because I don't know
Mhm.
how Y works. Like, whenever I go in as Y, I just die. Like, it's very hard to time her combo, but Jinx is much easier to play.
Mhm. Mhm.
And as a character in the show, like, I definitely like Y better. Because personally, I don't like to to be too emotional, and I'm not into people who are too emotional. I think. I mean, this may sound a little stoic. Like emotion is a weakness of human beings.
Yeah, that was incredible having you on this podcast. I was super excited, and I hope people also gonna be excited watching it.
It's a way of life. Like sometimes we'll ask ourselves, like, what's the whole point of this, right? Like, what's the whole point of waking up every day and be alive? I think everyone's answer will be different. But there's one thing is true and it's gonna be universal is um it's like life is kind of like a video game. You're playing as a character in this huge open world 3D sandbox.
Keep grinding.
And yeah, you can be grinding gears, you can be collecting pets, you can be like fishing in different lakes or whatever. Uh find your play style and enjoy the ride.